Howdy! Welcome to Aspire Mountain Academy. I'm Professor Curtis, your instructor for this course in Introductory Statistics. In less than 10 minutes, this video demonstrates how to apply the procedures for conducting hypothesis testing and constructing confidence interval estimates for two paired population mean values described in the previous mini lecture. Let's get started. So to illustrate how we're going to apply the methodology that we talked about in the previous mini lecture, we're going to be looking at the heights of 5 selected U.S. presidents and their main electoral opponents. So with this sample data, we're going to adopt an alpha of 5% to test the claim that for the populations of heights of presidents and their main opponents, the differences have a mean greater than 0. Okay? So what the claim really means is that presidents tend to be taller than their opponents. So here we see in the table, we see the selected data for 5 presidents of the United States and their electoral opponents. So this is the data that we're going to use to illustrate our methodology. First, we're going to check to make sure our requirements are met. Samples are dependent because the values are paired. Each member of the POTUS group has paired with a unique member of the opponent group, and so we're looking at paired data. Second, the pairs of data are randomly selected, and they were. 3, the number of data points is 5. Because 5 is far less than 30, we have to check for normality because that's the third requirement. We're having at least approximately normal solution. So if we go and make our QQ plot, this is what we see. And those data points look like they're not straying too far away from that red line of best fit. So yeah, we're looking at approximately normal distribution. So it appears that our requirements are met. We can go ahead and use our methodology. First thing we want to do is form our hypothesis. And when we're looking at our hypotheses, the first thing we do is think about what is the claim that's being made. So the claim is that the mean height of U.S. presidents is greater than the mean height of their electoral opponents. And since the presidents were mentioned first, that's going to have the subscript 1, and the electoral opponents will then have the subscript 2. So symbolically, we could write that as mu1 is going to be greater than mu2, which of course is the algebraic equivalent is mu1 minus mu2 is going to be greater than 0. Now, we're using mu sub d for dependent samples, so our claim is going to be that mu sub d is greater than 0. Because this is the symbol we use when we're dealing with paired data. The null hypothesis, by definition, is a statement of equality, and so we can write that simply as such. The alternative hypothesis generally reflects the claim. Here we don't have any semblance of equality in our claim, so we can just go ahead and adopt the claim as our alternative hypothesis. Now, the next step is to look at our test statistic, and in order to do this the old school way, we've got to assemble some of our summary stats. So I actually recommend that you work these problems in StatCrunch because StatCrunch will do all of this heavy lifting for you. But for those of you out there who really want to take the scenic route with this, here we go. So first what we're going to do is tabulate our data, and we're going to get the differences between each pairs of data points in our sample data. So for each pair, so this president of the United States that had a height of 189 centimeters, and the opponent had 170 centimeters for that height. So the difference between the heights for that pair is going to be 19. Notice how we're always taking one minus the other. So sometimes you might end up with a negative sign because the one side is greater than the other, and that's okay. Just go ahead and just do it the same down each way until you get all of your samples. And then when you get all your differences together, okay, you want the mean of those differences. So take in this example, the 19, the minus 12, the 8, the 0, the 1, add them together and divide by 5, and you're going to get the mean of the differences d bar, which it turns out to be 3.2. Likewise, the standard deviation S sub d is the standard deviation of the differences. So again, apply the formula for standard deviation to those values there in the difference column, and we come out with 11.4. So now we have what we need to calculate our test statistic. To do that, we just plug what we have there into our formula for test statistics. So notice how we've got a 0 there for mu sub d. That's because we're assuming that the null hypothesis is true, and the null hypothesis was that mu sub d equals 0. So substitute the values in, punch everything on the calculator, and we come out with 0.627668 for our test statistic. We round that to as many decimal places as we want. Our method's based on the student t-distribution, so we just go ahead and use that to find our p-value. And there in our t-calculator, we've got a one-tailed test on the right. 5 is our sample size, so we've got 4 degrees of freedom. And notice we put the test statistic in here, and then this area here is the area in the tail. That is the p-value. So we've got a p-value of 0.28. And now we can compare the p-value with our alpha level of 5%, and we find that we're well outside the region of rejection. Therefore, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. If we use the test statistic without messing with the p-value, then we're going to reach the same conclusion. So our critical value, 2.13, comes out of the t-calculator itself. Notice we put in the significance level for the area. And then we can compare that critical value, 2.13, with our test statistic. And we find that, again, we're outside that tail, that right tail of the distribution. Therefore, we're outside the region of rejection, and therefore we fail to reject H0. So no matter which way you go, you end up with the same conclusion for your hypothesis test. There is insufficient evidence, because we failed to reject H0, to support the claim, because we've got only one tail test, that U.S. presidents are taller than their electoral opponents. Confidence intervals. Confidence intervals are going to work in a similar manner. First, you find your margin of error E, and you do that by just plugging the values you have into your equation there. So our critical value T sub alpha over 2, 2.7764. Notice it's different than the critical value we just saw a moment ago. That's because this is T alpha over 2, so it's split among two tails, whereas the critical value we saw previously was all in one tail. So that's why the value is different. And then the other values we saw previously, so we punch this out on our calculator and get 14.15 for our margin of error. And now we just put that into our general form, and we substitute values into our general form, and then evaluate. We get negative 10.95 to 17.35 for our confidence interval. Again, this is a 90% confidence interval because our alpha level was 5. The claim matched the alternative hypothesis, so we want to use 1 minus 2 alpha for our confidence level. So this is a 90% confidence interval. And because 0 is inside the confidence interval, that means it could potentially be the value that we're looking for. And that means that if the value is 0, then there's no difference between the two groups. And therefore, we come to the same conclusion that there's not enough evidence to support the claim that presidents are taller than their opponents, because this is saying there's no difference between them. And that brings us to the end of this mini lecture. I hope you found it helpful. You can find more mini lectures for this and other courses at AspireMountainAcademy.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.